Hi, everyone. So the session today is about mediation, bidding. You can read the subject. Bidding in the mirror is closer than it appears. So if you're driving on alone, taking on your mirror, seeing a bidder or a network chasing you, then you're probably in the right place. So my name is Shalom Michaeli, guys. I'm managing director for Digital Turbine in EMEA, based in London, in the industry for around 10 years. Back then Interactive, was acquired by Fiber 6 years ago, and Digital Turbine, who acquired Fiber around a year and a half ago. I'm responsible for the supply side within EMEA and also the mediation business. So today we'll be speaking a little bit about what happened in the mediation in the past 4 years since the introduction of, well, it's better? Since the introduction of bidding in 2018, what were the major components, how it's all settled up, and what's actually happening today. So let's go back to 2018. Actually, 4 years ago, the early discussions about bidding. And everyone was actually back then very much excited about what bidding is going to entail. All the industry was speaking about it, and there was actually a lot of common sense. Bidding was about to change how we operate and how we work. For the publisher side, there was a lot of benefits. Think about decreases with latency. There's a decrease of operational overhead in terms of how many account managers are needed in order to operate placements and waterfalls and setups. In addition to that, everyone was very much excited about what's going to happen with revenues. Competition, supply, demand in real time pushes the prices up. So everyone was actually very much excited to see much more business in terms of scale and growth. Within Fiber, we also thought that there are additional components that must to be having in a mediation, and that's unparalleled transparency. Unparalleled transparency is a component that you have to have in the mediation in order to provide you with enough information to understand how the businesses operate. In addition to that, we were thinking back then that a competition on each and every impression is probably the most important thing. And this also has to be in the mediation, in the future mediation. And the bottom line, and actually very important part, is how do we build and bring additional demand sources to the mediation? How we manage to bring additional and open the door to brand buyers to come in. We're speaking about brands for so many years, but we saw that their entrance to the mobile space was actually periodic. How bidding actually can allow and enable that. On the other side, there were voices that were coming saying back then in 2018, guys, you in the in-app side, you don't be excited too much. It's not going to be as easy as it's going to be in the web. Back then, web and the bidding system in the bidding within web was actually very popular. But bidding within applications is a little bit different because it's much more technical. SDK's bidding is completely different than web bidding, in-app header bidding. And the more important is the video bidding and enabling video bidding was a completely different story. So there were voices that were saying that's going to probably take a little bit while. So what happened since then, since 2018? You can see that in the past 4 years, year over year, there was steady increase with growth over programmatic spend. Programmatic spend was growing year over year, up to reaching $142 billion in 2023. Out of those $142 billion, 91% is actually bidding money, is actually bidding spend. That means very much easy mathematics that 9% is coming from non-programmatic businesses. If we're speaking about what happens with mobile, then 67% from the 142, which is $95 billion, is going and allocated into mobile businesses. So programmatic within mobile is going to be $95 billion business by 2023. But what's happening with bidding within mobile, within programmatic? So bidding within mobile with programmatic, we see that up until now, bidding is not the majority of spend. 39% of the businesses are currently bidding only. It means that 60% of the revenues are coming from non-bidding networks. And there's a majority of opportunities for growth. If we take a look about what's happening from the technical point of view and the network's point of view, then there are additional networks that are implementing bidding more and more. Meta was one of the first and early adopters. Others followed and implemented as well. But we hear that implementing bidding and building bidding is not easy. It's not simple. It takes a lot of resources, and we hear more and more networks coming saying that they're investing more resources in order to actually build a proper bidding solution. We currently support 9 bidders out of 19 networks, and we hear with the demand partners that they are also looking forward to increase the amount of bidders by the end of in the next several quarters. That having said, probably it won't take us 4 years to get to 100% adoption. Probably will happen faster, but we see that we are currently in the halfway, and more things will happen in the next several quarters. So that's one part. In order to understand the second part of what happened in the past, in those 4 years, we also have to add components of the market changes. And the market was massively changing in the past several years. The consolidation was happening fast and quickly. Whoever is remembering 2012, 2013, whoever's been here, you remember all the companies that we had in the mobile ad space, that come like mushrooms after the rain, right? So many businesses that were adding so much different value to clients. But the consolidation is good. It actually matures our business, the business that we all so much love. It grows it up. The entry barriers are increasing as well. And there are fewer companies that create a better value to their clients. And what happened with this consolidation is that we can differentiate between horizontal consolidation and the vertical consolidation. On the horizontal consolidation, you can see gaming studios going and acquiring other gaming studios that specialize with different genres. And it's actually very smart because it creates diversification, right? And diversification in the gaming space is important because gaming business is a hit-driven business. A today successful genre might not necessarily be tomorrow. So if you diversify properly, you can stay afloat when gaming trends are changing. In addition to that, there's data about users. Different games are attracting different users. So a publisher can have a different portfolio and understanding different behaviors by having data from different game genres as well. And lastly, maybe most importantly, this consolidation is happening also because of gaming innovation limits. The gaming space is a very crowded market, and it's getting harder and harder to create good applications and also put them in the top charts. How hard it is. It's hard is that the publisher has to be quick, because if it's not releasing the application quick, then there's probably a probability that there will be clones and there will be lookalikes that will clone the application and ride on the brand equity of this publisher. So they have to be quick. And this is why if the diversification is done properly, then it's easy to cross-pollinate successful ideas from one game genre to another. So this is what happened on the horizontal side. On the vertical side, however, we see different things, different nuances. We see ad tech companies buying additional ad tech companies. Networks evolving to mediations, acquiring attribution platforms, developing good gaming studios, acquiring other game studios. This is actually quite scary. Why it's scary? Because as a game publisher, you possess your data, and your data is now being used by a mediation that also owns a gaming studio. So the data is being basically shared, and that's actually quite frightening. What's being done with this data? How this data is being handled? Those questions are very honest questions that publishers are dealing with them every day. One of the most interesting examples that we hear is that it's really hard to be also a player and also a referee in the same match if you're competing in the World Cup. If you're competing in the World Cup, you want to win. Probably you're going to have questions on the legitimacy of the winners. Fewer choices create constraints. So guys, we understand that the market is consolidating. But what does it mean? As we said, from one hand, consolidation brings the fact that fewer companies get greater value to their clients. On the other side, it also creates constraints. There is competition on each and every impression, and this competition is fierce. What's happening? One of the questions is what's happening with the ad requests? Do you know if you are unlocking the true price of your traffic? What happens with the flow? Do you understand exactly what is if you have transparency into the auction audit, how exactly the demand source is winning the impression? If one demand source is offering X and another demand source is offering Y, who is the winner and why the decision to choose this winner is happening? There's a discussion or there's a conversations in the industry about disproportionate share of voice by certain networks. 40 and 60% share of voice by a single network that is also becomes the network of the mediation. And that's actually, again, very frightening because the data is being shared. Bidding is here to solve it. Bidding democratizes the auction. Bidding democratizes and unveils the true value of the inventory on each and every impression. This is why it's so important. There are not many players that you can trust out there. And one of the main things is that advertising spend of the publisher is competing directly with the advertising spend of the network of the mediation. It's contradicting each other by default. So there are less players, and we know that data is the key. If you have data, then data is essential for you to grow the app business. Whoever has access to additional data points is enabled to get competitive advantage. And by doing so, this is why transparency and bidding becomes the key to higher yield and growth. So that was one part of the challenges that we have. The second part of the challenges is what's happening with the industry, right? Lots of things happening, and especially around third-party identifiers deprecation. So you all know what happened in 2016 with GDPR. It took several years of our life to prepare. Fast forward into 2021, iOS 14, Google. Privacy changes are here, and they are growing, and that means that there will be less and less identifiers that will be used by demand partners. And that means that there will be much more additional valuable insight for first-party data. First-party data will become the key, and that will be increasingly important. And not only that first-party data will become a key, audience segmentation will become a norm. Rather than targeting users on identifier, audience segmentation will become the norm on how we build deals. So if we understand that we have changes in the industry and there will be major changes with the way advertisers are able to buy, what advertisers are going to do? Advertisers will have to change the way their strategies in order to accommodate future growth. In order to provide value to their clients, they will have to change the way they buy audiences. And instead of buying users, they will be buying according to first-party data, which is basically player profile information, according to second-party data, which is data that is coming from the SDK itself. Think about the amount of impressions. Think about the ad LTV. This kind of information that will be derived from the SDK and will be used by the publishers to sell the inventory by differentiation prices. And the last one is third-party data. Those segments will enable publishers to package audiences differently and eventually sell them in, again, differentiated prices to advertisers. First-party data becomes more important for audience creation, and this is extremely important in this time when there will be, with the time, less and less identifiers available in the market. So from one hand, we have the changes in the space, but what happens with the monetization manager that sits over there and is responsible for the growth of the application? If the industry is changing and going towards bidding, then the waterfall as we know it, right? The updating CPMs per country, per operating system, per application, all the tedious and nice work that we were used to do, all of us, it will be removed. So what will happen to the monetization manager's role? And the monetization manager's role is also shifting and adjusting. Adjusting in the way that we work from home, there is much more disruption. We are living in an economic area in which growth is necessary, but we might be in recession. So bidding will solve some of them because growth will happen. But what will happen again to the role of a manager? And the role of monetization manager will change as well. What will do with the time that he will have? How will be useful to build additional and bring additional value to the company? And the possibilities will be a little bit different. Impact will be coming from not monetization per se, but from bringing much higher value and proactive value to user experience, to ads LTV. Think about a way that instead of reactively finding CPMs on a waterfall, the monetization manager will be able to establish proactive deals with agencies and with the seller in order to drive bigger, higher scalable PMPs. Think about the way that monetization manager will be able to understand where exactly the churn rates happening and create a user experience, able to offer IAPs and in advertising in a specific moment. The monetization manager's role is shifting and adjusting towards not on monetization, but towards a user experience area. So those are the things that will happen with monetization manager in the next evolution once we get to 100%. But 100% bidding makes us, the optimization shift from monetization to user experience will happen, and that's a tremendous change from how monetization managers were running businesses today. So if we need to conclude a few things, there's happening to be mistrust in the industry around several players. If you need to choose a mediation today, you have to understand exactly who is your partner. You have to trust your partner. You have to look in the eye and understand not only that you trust them, but how's their business working? Where is the money coming from? How's the operation is built? That you can always have their back. That's extremely important in the area of our businesses today. Again, fewer partners create better value, but you have to choose them carefully. First party, second party, third party data will give bidding demand better signals to compete. Finally, we will come into a way where brand demand partners will be able to equally compete with performance partners. We all hear publishers coming saying that We would like to have more brands, more brands, more brands. How do you get more brands? You get more brands by working with partners that with less give you more, with less SDKs give you additional demand, variety of demand, brand demand that enables to be competing in a real time, in a transparent way, in which you can understand exactly how the auction is executed and how a winner is being chosen. Move your focus from waterfall management to user experience. This is the change that will happen in the industry, and the more you adopt, the better it will be with the time. Start thinking about areas within the application that will not necessarily be impacting waterfall, but exactly user experience. Where exactly the churning points and how you can avoid them. And lastly, seek a comprehensive platform that helps you with monetization, user acquisition, and retention. Those are key elements in choosing a provider that will be able to help you growing. Fairby is part of Digital Turbine. Digital Turbine, as you know, acquired Fiber, Appreciate, and AdColony early last year. We are operating one of the largest independent mobile ad growth platforms with 800 million devices. We add additional 60 million devices every quarter. So by the end of this year, we'll have something like 1 billion devices, very reputable figure. And we have 25 million installs every month. You're in good company, guys. Carriers and OEMs, the leading ones in the industry, bidding demand partners and publishers are all working with Digital Turbine. If you have any questions, any comments, we have a booth over here, and you are more than welcome to ask any question. Thank you.